श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं वातरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः उकारो अन्धकारो वैरुकारस्तन्निवर्तकः अन्धकारनिरोधित्वात् गुरुरित्यभिधीयते ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ नमो भगवते वैवस्वताय मृत्यवे ब्रह्मविद्या आचार्याय नचिकेतसे नमः. Continuing with our Kaṭha Upaniṣad teachings, Nachiketas asked a question and Lord Yama is giving the answer in the traditional manner. The question was whether there is a birth or a life after a person departs from this world, after the death. I want to know that. If there any after living, please clarify about that. This was the question. And Lord Yama is giving the answer in the traditional way. According to the Nachiketas qualification, he unfolded the teaching in an elaborated way. In a vast way, he unfolded the teaching. And this was the teaching starting. How it starts, we will see that. The 18th shloka of the second chapter of Kaṭha Upaniṣad. I will read and I will explain that verse. Lord Yama says, Lord Death says, Na jayate mriyate va katachit nayam kutaschit na babhuva kaschit ajo nitya shashvatoyam puranaha na hanyate hanyamane sharire. The question is been answered from the ultimate standpoint of the reality. Nachiketas asked from the empirical standpoint that whether there is a birth or an afterlife for a person who dies in this world. After his death, if there is life, you please tell me. The answer was like this. You just add in front of that reply like, oh Nachiketas, there is no death and birth for the intrinsic nature of a human being. Na jayate, na mriyate. This was the two words. Na, never. It is never subject to birth. It is never subject to death. From the ultimate standpoint of reality, because human being, a human is a mere superimposition on a thing what we call Brahman or Atma. self. Atma means self. Brahman means the biggest thing which can even hold the entire universe. Brih, the biggest. So that consciousness, which is the base, which is the locus of the creation, which is all pervading, all pervasive, that is also pervading in the human body, which is never subject to death or birth. Na jayate, na priyate. The human body is subject to death and birth. But Lord Death started the teaching, keeping the goal as the first shlokan or the first verse as his instruction. This is the goal. What is the goal, Nachiketas? That which is not subject to death and birth, one should know. What is that? Na jayate, na mriyate, which is never subject to death, which is never subject to birth, which is not going to have a birth or a death. Simply. You are that consciousness. He didn't say that. We have to add with that. That consciousness which we are, a human body is just a superimposition on that consciousness. That consciousness, even if you don't know, that consciousness is not subject to death or birth. This was the proper answer from the Lord Yama as the beginning to Namriyate. Kaṭha Upaniṣad, which is a all-knowing entity. This consciousness is an all-knowing entity, which is never subject to death and birth. That is Sarvajnaha. In Sanskrit, Sarvajnaha or all-knowing entity. Nayam kutaschit na babhuva kaschit. For that consciousness, there is no particular cause for that consciousness, or there is no product from that consciousness. Kutaschit na babhuva kaschit. This consciousness didn't come from another thing which can be the cause of this consciousness, because we are familiar in this world. Anything what we perceive will have father and mother. They are the intelligent cause and the material cause of anything. Suppose, for example, if you see a pot, we identify the pot, and we go through the pot, and from the pot, we come to a conclusion that this pot is made by the pot maker, and this pot is made of clay. Is the intelligent cause or father of the pot, and the clay is the material cause or the mother of the pot. So, anything in the world which is a product will have one is intelligent cause, nimitta karanam. In Sanskrit, it is called nimitta karanam. Efficient cause or intelligent cause. Upadana karanam, material cause. A material which is used to make that pot. A pot maker and the clay are the causes for the pot. You have to extend this logic to each and everything in this world. Anything what we perceive is a product which has a cause. Of course, there are two causes. One is intelligent, one is material, two causes. So, statement negates that this pure consciousness, which is I am, which is my intrinsic nature, is not a product at all, not a cause at all. Neither product nor cause. Nayam kutaschit na babhuva kaschit. This Kaṭha Upaniṣad statement denies what? The consciousness which is all-pervading, which is I am, that Atma which is I am, is neither a cause nor a product. Because if I am a cause, I am subject to modification. If I am a product, I am subject to destroyed. I am subject to get destroyed. So, this statement says that this consciousness which is I am is not a cause, not a product. Nayam kutaschit na babhuva kaschit. For the cause, Sanskrit, karanam, nimittam or karanam in Sanskrit, karanam. And for the product, we say karyam or utpannam. Product is called karyam or utpannam. Karanam also got negated. The cause also got negated. The karyam also got negated by this statement, Nayam babhuva, Nayam kutaschit na babhuva kaschit. It doesn't come from any other thing. It never gave birth for another thing. This is the proper way of understanding. It doesn't come from another thing as a product. It will not become a cause for another thing. So here, a serious thinker, a mumukshu or a jitnyasu should arrive at a conclusion that this world is not a product comes out of Brahman. This universe is not a product which comes out of Brahman. It is only a superimposition, aropanam, on the rope. When we don't perceive clearly in a dark room, that rope is evident to me, even though I am not clear what is lying on the ground, but it is evident to me somehow. Then a superimposition happens. a rope is mistaken as a snake. Then rope is not the cause for the snake. And rope didn't give any birth for the snake. So the entire universe is not a product of Brahman. Entire universe is a apparent reality on the locus, what we call Brahman. An apparent reality. There is no creation from the ultimate standpoint. The locus which is not perceived by the senses, the base which is the ultimate reality of the entire universe is not perceived by our senses, then we mistake that entity into some other thing. Then a superimposition occurs. We are coming to this explanation more in coming slokas. For the time being, please confirm that this entity is been mistaken as names and forms in this entire universe. The creator, the created division is only in the words. There is no such creation. If there is a creation at all, then there is a modification and it will become a cause for the creation. Here, the statement says that it is not a cause at all. It is not a product at all. So, the first line, the meaning will be like this. There is no birth, there is no death for the intrinsic nature of one's own self. There is that intrinsic nature which is called self or Brahman is neither a cause nor a product. This is the meaning of the first line. Now I will come to the second line. Ajaha. Ajam, meaning it is never subject to have a birth. Na jayate iti ajaha. It is not subject to any kind of birth. So Nachiketas may have more confusion or Nachiketas got the perfect answer. Either way he can think, because Lord Yama told that there is no birth. For what? Not from the empirical standpoint. He gave the answer from the ultimate standpoint of reality. As we are Brahman, there is no birth at all. Then how I got this human body? All these things we are going to elaborately, we are going to discuss. Okay. From the ultimate standpoint, we are all ajaha. Ajaha means not subject to any kind of birth. Even now, yes. Then what? Body is an apparent reality, a superimposition on the locus. That locus is never subject to birth. I already mentioned you an example of rope snake. When you don't know the locus, we superimpose a snake on that. A rope is not known, So we impose a snake on that rock because I got some evidence regarding the thing what is lying under the ground, because it is round in shape, it is length. So almost few features of the snake is there. So I just mistaken the identity as a snake. In the same manner, the Brahman, which is not known for me through my senses, but there is something in order to have a superimposition, and I superimpose, it is a body. From the standpoint of body, yes, there is a birth, there is a death. From the standpoint of ultimate reality, ajaha, never subject to birth or death. That entity is never subject to death and birth. Then nityaha. Nityaha means first we have to take something which cannot be destroyed at any point of time. There is no death at all. The word nitya means in Sanskrit permanent. When we say nityaha, we have to take, or we have to convert that it is not subject to death. What is permanent, what is eternal, will never goes away after coming here. So it came, no, ajaha, it is not subject to birth. It is always there. Something which is already there is being misunderstood as a body, and it is not going to die at all, because already it is existing in the past, in the present, and also will be existing in the future. So it is nityaha, eternal, permanent, never subject to death. Nityaha. So ajaha will represent no birth at all, and nityaha will represent no death at all. Nitya should be taken as the meaning no death at all. The meaning of the nityaha is permanent. What is permanent is not subject to any kind of destruction. That means not subject to death. Ajaha nityaha shashvataha. Shashvatam. Any kind of destruction is not possible at all. When there is a piece of iron lying under the ground, and sometimes it will have a connection with water, it gets touch with water, touches with water, sometimes with the air. So that iron piece will get rusted, and there will be a modification going on daily, and it will be end up into some other thing. With the connection of some other thing, or from a contact of another thing, anything is subject to destruction. Our body is subject to destruction because it has a lot of connection. When we eat food, a lot of things are going on, and there is a connection with the food and the stomach. We have a connection with the air, which is polluted. We have connection with a lot of things. Whenever there is a connection in this world for a thing, that contact will certain modifications in our life. When there is only one entity which is all-pervasive, sarva-vyapi, that entity is not at all subject to any kind of destruction. or any kind of modification. There is no second thing to get into contact with that entity. That is why I told you, from a contact of another thing, anything is subject to modification in this world. This is a logic. Keeping this logic and analyzing this word, Shashvataha, never changes. It is permanent. Tomorrow also it will be in the same manner, Shashvataha. After 3 days also it will not get fermented, or it will not get destroyed, it will not get modified. It will be the one and the same. Why? Ekameva advitiyam Brahma. This is the statement from the Upanishad, Shruti. Ekam eva, only one indeed. There is nothing second, not a second at all. Only one entity, which is Sarvajnaha Sarvavyapi. And each and every names and forms are just like the waves and the bubbles in the ocean. They are not away from the water. Entire water is there in the bubbles and the waves and the ocean. One thing exists in names and different names and forms. It can be a dog, it can be a human being, it can be a star, it can be 5 elements, space, vital air, fire, water, earth. When we say all pervasive, means entire 5 elements is being pervaded by this one single entity. So there is no other thing, only name and form exists. When we say space, means the Brahman exists, and the Brahman is superimposed as Akasha. Being the base of each and every element, this Brahman, which is all pervasive, we say in different names and forms. This Brahman is not subject to any kind of modification, because Ekam eva advitiyam. Nothing without any second entity. Not a second entity exists at all. Ekameva, one thing exists in this world, as the names and forms, as the 5 elements, as the entire creation in one word, as this universe, Prapancham. So this is also called Shashvataha. Oh Nachiketas, what you are asking to me, that thing is never subject to death and birth. It is not a cause, it is not a product, it is not at all going to have a birth at any point of time. I mean past, present and future. Even right now, you are not subject to birth. This is being told to Nachiketas in an indirect way, unfolding the traditional teachings. Oh Nachiketas, you are not subject to death and birth if you know your ultimate reality. So Lord Yama is revealing the ultimate thing which is pervading in the entire universe. That consciousness, which is also pervading inside our body, which is also filled all around us, that consciousness is not at all going to get modified at all. So when I say I am a man, or I am a boy, or I am a woman, it is an apparent reality, superimposed form. Atasmin tad buddhihi. Shankara says in Brahma Sutra, in a thing, when you don't know, you impose then another name and form on that. When you don't know the rope is there inside the dark room, you will impose a snake on that rope. This is what happened right now also. When I take, I am a woman, that is only an apparent reality, because not knowing the reality about oneself. Here, Lord Yama reveals the real truth of a human being. You are Brahman, which is not subject to death and birth. You are not a cause, you are not a product. That product and cause connection will only exist in the empirical reality. From the ultimate standpoint of reality, you are not a cause, you are not a product. And you are not going to have a birth at all. You will never get modified. And what he says, Puranaha. When we are subject to grow, we daily get modified. Thus, from the child, we get matured. From the matured, we get old. At last, we will depart from the world. Any modification means no longer we are having the old form. Our old form has destroyed and a new form has come. A egg became a chick. No longer an egg exists at all right now. Only chick exists. When we say I am a teenager, means no longer a kid exists right now. No longer a boy exists at all. When I am a man, when we say no longer a boy or a teenager or a kid exists right now. Any modification is the non-existent of the previous form or the previous stage. Here, when we say Puranaha, Pura eva navaha, from the first day or from the olden time, or when the Brahman, there is no date of birth for Brahman. From there onwards, Nityaha, Pura eva navaha. It is not subject to any kind of modification. It will always remain new. Pura eva navaha. It is always new from the past itself. From the past onwards, it is not subject to any kind of alteration or modification. It will not give up the previous stage and come to the new stage. Never. That's all for the human body. So, Lord Yama is negating our empirical conclusions, what we made. Oh, Brahman is now in the form of a human being. No. Brahman never got modified into a human being. Pura eva navaha. From the past onwards, it is in the one and same form, in the same manner. Pura eva navaha. From the past onwards, it is new. In the present also, it is in the same manner. And in the future also, it will continue in the same manner. Pura eva navaha. Puranaha. And he says one of the biggest statement to have that, we can say, a clinching statement. Na hanyate, na hanyamane sharire. When we say this body is now not at all reacting to this world, I think this man has departed from the world. He passed away. When we say the body is dead. Lord Yama says, even the body can come to a conclusion that it is dead. Still, Atma is not subject to any kind of death. When I say that, I will give you an example, then you will understand properly. There is a pot, and when we drop the pot, that is the end of the pot. The pot got distracted. Okay? There is no more a pot exists at all right now, because I dropped the pot from my hands to the ground, and it became several pieces now. Now the pot is not at all there, still the clay remains. This logic you apply in this. Even the body get completed or decayed or not at all there anymore, still the Atma exists, that which Atma which was pervading inside the body. Keeping this meaning, I want to explain this sentence. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. When the body gets all kinds of afflictions, it can get blame from others. It can get hurt from others. Somebody will make you hurt, pointing your defects of the body. So hurts I will get blaming. Somebody will blame me. Somebody will harass me. Somebody will put down me. All these things are different type of afflictions coming to the body. Lot of afflictions are there. People will always discuss about the defects of another person. They are not interested to talk about the advantages of each and every life forms. They are interested to talk about the defects of the others. So hurt is inevitable for each and every living being. Even though we have a lot of abilities, we have a lot of talents, and we have proved among them in front of them, still ordinary people don't want to discuss about your or our talents. They want to discuss about a small defect which happened in my life or which is there in my life. It hurts me. Different types of hurts are there. The biggest threat and hurt in my life is that I don't want to be non-existence in this world. I don't want to die. If somebody comes to hurt me, after the hurt I can survive. But somebody comes to kill me, I will run away. I don't want to be a non-existent in this universe. So, Lord Yama says, even the body get deteriorated or get killed, still this Atma never get killed. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Han, to get killed. Even the body can be no more in this universe, still the Atma continues to be exist. This Atma is not at all going to get any kind of hurt and pain. That is why the Brahmajnani, the person who has the knowledge of the self, will not get affected by others' words. They don't keep what others say. They will be on the right track because they come to know their real nature, that it never gets hurts from the ordinary people. It is not subject to any kind of hurt or pain. I will explain about this sentence more in the next class. We will go to this Mrityunjaya mantra japa. I will Sarve Bhavantu Suganaha, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschat Dukkha Bhavet, Asato Ma Sadgamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya, Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate, Purnasya Purnamataya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.